Hey guys, and welcome to an episode of Untier Talk that's going to make me very, very tired. Hey Jed, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. This was the week of PUPL finals. Hijad has been busy with his own finals or exams or whatever, job, all that stuff. He's not watched any of it. So I'm going to go through very painful, drawn out, here's what happened and here's why everything just makes me really tired, and I'm gonna have to explain to Hijad all about this finals. It's gonna be very fun.
Interesting.
You've been pretty gone. Do you want to say anything about last week as well? Because last week we kind of ripped on you as like the Dens literally put in no effort and didn't care and did nothing. Do you have anything you want to say
Yep.
about that? Or you just
That is, I don't think there is a phrase that can better describe our effort levels in that semi-final. Just didn't care, didn't want to do anything,
yeah,
and that's sort of on me as a draft in the draft phase in the strategy department because I admitted that a lot of the pressure to build and prepare was going to be on me after the draft, um, and I was far more busy than I anticipated. So the amount of effort that I put in last PUPL was no longer a feasible, option, even though that's what the draft required. So that's on me more than anybody, I think.
yep, all right, pretty much. So going into finals though, it's pretty weird. So you have that where clay dolls pretty much just get a free pass, nothing required, right? And on the other side, you have
Mm-hmm.
Karkol's Meow Sticks, which is not a good series. Karkles get pretty lucky to get where they were at. They won 5-3, and realistically, without hacks, this was probably a 5-3 win for Meowsticks, maybe 4-4. I think overall we had the better prep as well, uh, and just there were some games here that were not great. There were actually some good games in this set. This is like the only good games in playoffs at all occurred in Karkol's Meowsticks, but
Mm-hmm.
there was Star Termy and Aldo TSR, which were both like not good Robs. Which,
Sweet.
to be fair, on our end, Specs versus LST isn't a real win. That happened after they'd already won, and LST just brought a meme team. So if you imagine it as a 5-2 them, when it really should have been like a 4-3 us with that game to go. But still,
Yeah.
like going into finals is very weird because obviously these are two teams that are totally capable of having a really good set, but neither of them have really done like anything in playoffs. So you sort of have like a finals where no one's going in with I wouldn't even say no momentum because you still get momentum from 6-0ing the Dedens. Like even if they're doing nothing and you're just getting free wins, that's still momentum. But you get what I mean. It's a weird finals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll just go through
It
this
feels
in.
like it feels quickly just. It
Mm,
feels more like one of those classic PUPL finals rather than a 14 playoff finals because the Carcos and the Clados in this case both had like relatively easy semifinals.
mhm.
So it makes sense that, it feels more like an older PUPL finals.
Yeah, and again, this is something I'm going to repeat a lot. I'm not saying that they were bad in this. Carcoals, Claydolls were not bad for what happened. You can't do anything about the hacks you get. You can't control that your opponents just like don't care and put up an absolutely nothing week. That doesn't mean that they're not good. That just means that by the only metric we can judge them, how they performed, this was a real nothing burger. And I'm going to keep repeating that over and over because frankly, I've seen a big backlash to anything critical. Mostly because I think a lot of people are just happy the Clay Dolls won and don't want any kind of like actual analysis or thought to be happening. And I know that's really harsh, but like I've said some things that have had some backlash, but none of the backlash has been arguing with my points. They're just angry that I've said them, and I'm still gonna repeat them because this whole cast is about analysis, and I don't think I'm being mean in any way. It's just like here's how things go. For a great example, we can start out with the first game on Friday, TJ versus Felleburn. Pretty interesting stuff because Felleburn started out really strong and went into a big losing streak the last several weeks. Um, whereas
Mhm.
TJ's been like consistently strong, leading the team with the really strong SS and all that. Um, they both got pretty standard stuff. At least at
Mhm.
preview, nothing is super crazy. And like I said, Hajad has not watched this game, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of give him the storyline, then he's gonna say how much he agrees. Um, they both start out with like pretty basic looking stuff, but the big switch up that happens very early that I really liked from the Carcoals with what they figured out was Felburn's Golduck will turn out to be an expert belt rain dance set that just does it gets frisk expert belt by the Gorgeist very early. So like TJ knows what it is, but it still does a massive amount of work. Because that's something TJ's used a lot is this like Gorgeist Klinklang as the combined water resist that the Golduck just puts an immense amount of pressure on. And I think Felburn plays the early game
Mm.
really well. I think he totally nails what he has to do and absolutely goes in versus TJ's team. Um, that would have been the real big factor here. Um, he gets a really unfortunate
Gets that.
hydro miss to get toxic. That kind of sucks. But that definitely helps out Felburn a lot, as does he sort of ends up 1v1ing this Morpeko with Sandslash when like he shouldn't. Um, I don't know what TJ was doing there. I think he said he misclicked Oro Wheel when it was electric type versus the Sandslash, or
Mhm.
something. Like I think he said he fucked up. Basically, Feliburn pretty much just has this game, and you can see by turn 27, it's just TJ's non boots mime versus Feliburn. Kills the
Yeah.
Savali with Focus Blast. At this point, Feliburn is like, it's a Scarf Mime. Goes
Mhm.
Tangela to knock it off. It actually turns out to be a Violite Nasty plot, and cleans the game. This is just a fuck up. Yeah, this is how this game goes. In reality, there was no reason for him to not go Klinklang. That is straight up the play. It's completely safe, even if it's like Scarf Mime or like Specs Mime or something. Like that is the play. You go Klinklang. I guess maybe he was afraid of Specs. Maybe that I don't quite remember. Point is, he thought it was a choice mime. He
Yeah, but
didn't.
you have to land Focus Blast there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he didn't
you
think it
have to
was a
land a
Violate
Focus
Nasty
Blast there,
plot.
so I don't think that's an argument.
No, either way, like you go Klinklang. That's always the play here. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he
Clink Clang's the
goes
play.
Tangela and gets Nasty plotted on and just wins.
Mhm.
And this is a bit of a silly thing because like I got genuine pushback for going. Philibert totally threw the end game, but that doesn't mean TJ was good. Karkle still definitely had the better prep here, and Philippern got fucked by hydro dodges and a big static para with the one turn on the unpheasant. I'm not gonna say that Philippern deserved
Wait.
to win this because obviously no, that's a massive fuck up
Ah.
you threw the game. I just think this is something where both teams come out looking bad, and I can't go like, oh yeah, Clay Dolls did super good here. Because that's the overwhelming
Uh,
narrative has been like, yeah, let's go Clay Dolls. And it's like this was a big nothing. TJ really fucked up the early game and had a very predictable build. They both came out of this not looking too good, which is what it is. I'm not like, oh, TJ fucking sucks. It's just no, this was like not a good game. They both just come out looking kind of bad.
right. Yeah. So I'm just gonna do a bit of, I guess, basic analysis with Feliburn's team. I'm guessing that was Scarf and Pheasant, correct?
Yeah, they both had Scarf and Pheasants, it turns out.
Yeah. So the static power from the Stunfisk turned out to be really, really big because you can play that entire game thinking that the you have this pheasant in the back, but he got static powered quite early. I don't know if that's a
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that's the most
misplay. I think the
impactful.
Hydro
I
miss
think
was pretty
yeah,
poor as
it's
well.
sillier because TJ auto lost to Golduck without the Hydro miss, but then like when it comes
Yeah,
for him to use the less accurate Focus Blast, he hits all of them. Um,
right.
like between that stuff, TJ should not have won the game. Um,
Mm, yeah, I agree with you there. I think
but I don't think the
it.
hacks is like
I
a really defining thing. It's just like, oh, this in many
yeah,
ways should not have gone to him.
I don't think. I just looked at the game. I don't think TJ should have won the game. arguably TJ had a decent matchup. However,
not with the Golduck. I don't think you can say that with the Golduck. That shit went in hard.
TJ would probably be thinking at preview that he probably had an okay matchup. It would just have been about containing the Golduck. But I think overall, you'd probably have. See, the thing is, I struggle to sympathize here with Felibun. I want to sympathize for him just because like he got hacked. But bro, like you shouldn't have thrown the game like that.
No, I totally agree. I'm not sympathizing with Felibun. On the other hand, I think people have like really pushed. Oh yeah, let's go Clay Dolls, and that's the thing. Like I'm trying to push back on extra hard. Like my way of saying is like no one comes out of this looking good. Do you remember earlier?
That's right. Yeah, that's
Do you remember in early weeks in Black White, I was gonna 100% lose to Chill Shadow, with his Swoobat that he baton passed to, and then he hit Heat Wave instead of Stored Power, and then Heat Wave missed when Stored Power would have killed. You remember that? That's the same.
Yeah, I did.
That's the same thing to me. I won, but like no one comes out of that game looking good. I look like a chump who's gonna get fucked and then just got lucky, and Chill Shadow looks like the guy who just completely threw a win. I think that's the same thing here. Like no one comes out of this looking good.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I think you pretty much summed it up right there. Like TJ won, but like it's like a hollow victory in a certain sense, just because it's like neither player actually performed to the standard that I think both were expecting of each other.
As a team, you totally take those, but as a like here we're gonna analyze who did good. I will say though, like the thing that I did come out of this, the one like plus is that I really did like Feliburn's prep here. I thought the Golduck was just a really good call versus the kind of stuff TJ uses, and also seems pretty good in general. Like Expert Belt, Hydro, Ice Beam, Focus Blast can do a lot of damage to the Gorgeist and the Type Nulls and all that. So I was like, if there's one thing you can take away,
you can bluff Scarf as well.
I did like Feliburn's team, whereas TJ's is like totally solid and nothing wrong with it. I don't think it's a little bit weird, but I think for the most part it's fine. It's just like there's nothing crazy that makes me go, oh yeah, this is the shit,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree with that. I can go with that.
Game 2, we've got Kepi versus Procopius. That's the next thing that happens. This is probably the one I have the least to say about, just because Procopius didn't play this very well at all. For the most part, what Procopius has, they've both got kind of normal looking stuff, but the biggest thing Procopius has is like Specs Rhyme to chip shit for Lilligant. That's like kind of his game plan here. But multiple times Procopius will send in his Specs Rhyme and hit Focus Blast to try to immediately OHKO the Klinklang. And Kepi's not dumb and sees how big of a threat Lilligant is and keeps just going to their Scarf Mime, going to not Klinklang. So Procopius could have made a lot more progress if he just hit Ice Beam, but instead, like, he kind of just wastes a lot of the early game and goes down like so early, is so far in the back that there's just not a lot he can do aside from hope Lilligant manages to 1v1 the Klinklang. Which it does not. Which it almost does, because Lilligant can be a bit silly, but it does not. And none of this is really complicated analysis. This was stuff immediately after the game people were talking about. Yeah, Procopius messed that up. I think he admitted that. But yeah, I think Kepi played this perfectly fine, and Procopius just like did not do the things he would have needed to do to put himself in a place to win.
Yeah. Okay. I just had a quick look through the game, and to be honest with you, it looked like Procopius was trying to like bully Kepi, like in the way that you would bully a ladder player. To be honest, you know how you would make a not necessarily aggressive play, but like a play where it's like, okay, he's probably going to switch out into his counter. I'm going to predict the counter, right? But I feel like at this level of Pokemon, where you're playing somebody who understands that risk reward of, okay, if I go out into my Klinklang, I might get Focus Blasted, and I need my Klinklang. I think it was probably a bit naive of Procopius to try and go down that path. I think as you said, a better idea would have been just to pressure with Ice Beams, keep rocks off. That's another key thing that you needed to do, but she didn't. And yeah, after that, that's what I would have expected Progress to do. Just showing a long term game with just like ice beaming into Stunfisk or ice beaming into like throw. You know what I mean? Like anything that makes more of a long term strategical sense than just to like, oh, I'm just gonna click focus blast when I have a free turn and hopefully I kick the Kling Clang and then I win. That seems a bit too simplistic in my opinion. So yeah, I think that Kepi deserved this game. Kepi played well.
Absolutely.
To just generally think long term.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we ended up. Not a ton. I like the Carcoals prep better than the Clay Dolls. Prokopius' team is just a little weird. I don't know how to like. It doesn't really fit together in my mind, and it's very much like Stunfisk Dustmar.
How does
counter everything for me, please?
Yeah,
I like Kepi's team
Yeah.
a lot more. I think it fits together. It's got the fun growth Tangela that's sort of popped up as the way to beat sub bulk up throw, which it did do here, and that was like very useful for Kepi.
Yeah, I think Prokopius' team it tends to struggle with a couple of things like throw and like it's clear that this is like offense.
Yeah,
but
it's very
feel
offensive.
like offense. It doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't.
It's got so many momentum.
It's not speed control based. It's not momentum based. It's just a lot of strong threats based, where hopefully either throw or Lilligant are just going to do so much damage that's how you win. You know?
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. I think that's I don't know. I don't like that too much.
I'm just trying to let my dog out.
All right.
He can't make up his mind. Okay. Yeah, so that's 2 games in, 1-1, and Kepi's the only player who's come out of this looking good.
Okay.
Next we have DPP. So the first 2 games were on Friday. We start off Saturday with DPP, Drud versus GA. This one I actually think you might be able to say more about in terms of DPP, because this is something that like immediately struck me and other people watching, and GA admitted later. This was not a very well played game by GA. It was a very weird played game, and I struggled to understand why he did the things he did. Early game, there's a lot of doubling around. Like, they both reveal 5 Mons very fast. And they're kind of, like, doubling around, making predictions. And then GA, like, very early on, over-predicts. Is like, you're going to do a double switch. And just immediately loses Gastrodon in a way that felt very unnecessary, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's a really bad play, because Drud lost nothing by just clicking E-Ball, because he knows that there's probably not going to be a counter beyond Muck to take on the Victory Bell.
Yeah, and Muck is sleeping and switching to nothing. Rocks and...
Exactly. There's so much going in the Victory Bell's favor just by clicking Energy Ball, Leaf Storm, whatever the move is, even Sludge Bomb there. But like, yeah, definitely not staying in with Gastrodon was not the call. I don't think that was correct at all.
Yeah. Later on, he'll also sack his Muck to Politoed when it felt like Muck kind of needed to be around, I guess. Like, I know it loses to Gabite and Matang. Maybe not. Like, I guess, no, it's kind of just hard to see what he might have done late game.
He put himself in a hole there, to be honest.
Yeah. Messes up versus Encore Politoed, and then, like, is forced to get his Mischievous Reel chipped. Like, nothing really... I don't know. I just don't... I feel like... I don't feel like GA had the worst matchup. It's not ideal. Because you've got a Magmar-based team, and Magmar doesn't do anything to Drud's team. He's got a Politoed and the Gabite. We don't even know what Drud's last Mon is. But I feel like there should have been more ways for GA to like put pressure on his team. Notably, Drud never revealed what his ground resist is, but GA's Gabite didn't.
It was Missy.
Oh yeah, it was Missy in the back.
Scott
right.
Missy.
Right.
Scott Missy.
But GA like never really used the Gabite at all. Like, this was just kind of... I don't think Drud did anything wrong, and I don't think GA put up much of a fight, which is like not typical for him. He still ended with the best DPP record, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he ended with the best DPP record regardless, I want to say. But this was like just kind of uncharacteristically a poor game.
Yeah, this game it feels a lot like Gastrodon plus Muck could have done something potentially. Um, knowing that it's Scarf Missy in the back, there's not really much that can pressure Gastro plus Muck.
Mm.
Um, so it's just in that case of using your other four things to, in hindsight, obviously, into hindsight, just to like chip the rest of the team and then play for those two to just wall out in the end game. That seems like the best plan. But I mean, because you sacked your Gastrodon so early, you didn't even get to explore that possibility, which sucks.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it was a bad misread.
Yeah.
I think that we can't really delve too bad. Like the game was lost as soon as he stayed in. To be honest.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't disagree. So that was the first Saturday game. The next Saturday game is Trix versus Skipcan.
Mm-hmm.
Trix is not a bad player overall.
Right.
But Trix's
That's
last
not a good way to start this game off, bro.
Trix's last few weeks have been real bad. So let me just like go over their whole PUPL for the record. So they start their first game. They only played SM. Week 5 they play Yandod and hacks them. The hacks is so early on. I can't say Trix necessarily played bad, but I do feel like Yandod probably would have won that without early game BS. Week 6 they play Gefahrlicher random and just kind of win. Gefahrlicher didn't do much. Week 7 they play Telenet and only lose to a freeze, so that's something. That's like a couple wins. Then they get to playoffs, and their two playoff games are Raichi and Skipcan, and both Raichi and Skipcan I think are very good players with more SM experience, and in both cases absolutely wiped the floor with Trix, who just played really bad. There's no way around it. I'm not like, fuck you, Trix. I'm not trying to be mean. Again, this is analysis, because wow, that's a really hard point sometimes. Skipcan played this way better. He prepped it way better. Trix's team has some significant issues. And Skipcan just wipes the floor with him. Like, this is not close. This is not a question. This was just like a very silly game. Skipcan just hits the not stupid buttons and wins the game very early on. Partially because Trix really messed up the early game, and also partially because he was also very weak to Z Celebrate Leafeon. Yeah, similar to last week where Raichi just buttoned all over him for a massive victory. Except even worse, this was like a full 6-0 sweep. There's not much to say about
Oh,
this.
smokes. Yeah, this is not close. This is really bad.
Trix is not a terrible player, but in playoffs, these were two really bad games.
Yeah, I like Skipcan's team. I think it looks very. I don't want to say. It's just really momentum based, and you have a lot of things there, like just a lot of offensive pressure. Whereas with Trix's team, I feel like stuff like Gerda and Lantern and Silvally,
it's a lot of momentum loss, and it's Torterra plus Mudsdale, which I'm never really a fan of at all.
Yeah, that's asking to get shit on by like a Abomasnow or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like neither of your things are the fire resist, and he's relying on Lantern, and we know how Lantern just gets Grassiumed. The team is very slow.
That's a weird call.
No, okay, it's actually Scarf Lantern, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Scarf. It's Scarf. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and like that's not supposed to be your Simisear counterplay. Like, no. And I agree with you on Skipcan's team. It's actually by a decent margin my favorite team the Clay Dolls brought. Although I can't really evaluate Dread's team. I have no idea if it's good. But in Gens 5 through 8, this is by far my favorite thing the Clay Dolls brought. It's the one I'm like, oh yeah, this is like really good. I like this.
I can get behind this.
It checks out. Yeah. Real just shut out of a game. So that's the last game that happens on Saturday.
Okay, well, that was a dominant win. Yeah, that's a dominant victory.
So after Saturday, Clay Dolls are up 3-1. And we jump into the Oras game, Lighthouses versus Aldo. And if you've been watching the previous weeks of PUPL, you might know that Lighthouses has been pretty on fire, doing quite well. And
Yeah.
Aldo
Yeah.
has been really bad. Again,
Yeah.
I like Aldo, very cool dude. We've hung out, we did RMT stuff together. He's been really bad, and his only wins were lucking TSR twice. Which is not an accomplishment. TSR got lucked pretty much every game this tour. So it was weird to load in and see Lighthouse's team. Lighthouse's turned out did not have time to prep, he said after. This is something that he reused that was a team that had been built for Teddy, which makes complete sense to me, and I'm willing to believe it, because this does not look like what you use against Aldo. Aldo has brought a lot of sort of this stuff that we see, a lot of like balance that does not have very much longevity. It's the kind of thing that can work, but you need to break and win real quick because your stuff dies real fast and is mostly pretty frail and gets pressured by a lot. Which hasn't been working for Aldo because he's mostly kind of just been getting outplayed and not doing very well. To be completely, yeah, that's just kind of how it's been. So I don't think Lighthouses has the ideal team going into this. In fact, I kind of like what Aldo has. I think this is for once something he could really do well versus.
Right.
Like the matchup was immediately striking to me. This is not what I would have like last week versus Aldo. We brought like Specs camera up stuff, and
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
Oh no, we didn't. Did we do Specs camera up stuff? I don't really remember. No, last week for Zelda we brought Dustclops stuff because Dustclops was like, if you keep bringing balance that is no longevity, we'll just bring a really fat seismic tosser that 3 AKOs your whole team. Which almost worked until we got a bit unlucky. But the point is, like, I really did like what Aldo could actually do here. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of his team, this is not what I would have used versus him from Lighthouses. And you can see Aldo like picking up kills and doing a lot more work like very early on. Takes a really solid early advantage. Actually is like making some good plays. Catches Lighthouses over predicting with his Rotom, which I don't really disagree with. It was a little weird to leave Mawile in, but still. And then we get like to turn 17. Aldo's put himself in a pretty solid, like straight up winning position. And then he's got, and then just watch turn 18.
Okay.
He's got Simisear versus a Tangela.
No.
All he has to do is Leaf Storm again and kill it, and Lighthouses basically cannot win this game. The Rotom's not even got its scar. Like Lighthouses can't win this game, but he gunk shots, misses, and dies, and from that point, Lighthouses wins. And this is one of the even closer. Like, how do you even talk about this game in terms of like hacks versus you fucked up? Because on one hand, he should have.
This is more hacks. This is more hacks.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily.
On one hand, he should have leaf stormed.
He
should have 100% leaf stormed again. It was stupid to gunk shot. Very stupid, like unnecessary thing. On the other hand, it's literally a 10% difference in either way. This was not a game Lighthouses should have won. Like.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Lighthouses still had a chance because of the Ursa. The Ursa could have done some work, and it still could revenge kill the Simisage.
I thought we said
that there was no.
I thought it was
given
Guts.
that there was no Mawile. Was it Guts or was it? It was Quick Feet, right?
No, it was Quick Feet. Okay. Yeah, but Aldo still has his Scarf Rotom and all that stuff in the back. So yeah, okay, maybe not 100% one.
I'd still put it in Aldo's favor,
but I think Aldo has
him to choke it.
Yeah, I think it's on Aldo to fuck that game up. You're definitely in a winning position there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's sort of how the game ended. Which, if it was just like Lighthouses had like a better team and whatever, and then got hacks, and then like got the hacks, I'd be like, okay. But like my biggest thing here, I think Lighthouses has just been so much better in this tour that he never should have been losing to Aldo. I think that was definitely like a fuck up, and I'm sorry to see that like this is the game Aldo drops.
Yeah, I think Aldo deserved to win this game. I think the difference was that Lighthouses, I think, generally just didn't. Like, if you're going to reuse a team versus somebody that you know you should beat, at least reuse something that's like like actually like really good.
More
Like, you know what I mean?
solid.
Like
Yeah, this
really
is a
more
weird
solid.
team. It's an anti-Teddy team, which like that tracks. I get why you'd use this versus Teddy, but like I said, this is not what I would have used versus Aldo at all.
Yeah, you can outbalance Aldo. You don't need to go down the route of the Teddy route where it's like, okay, if we have a straight on fist fight with balance versus balance, I'm gonna lose, so I'm gonna prep for that.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case with versus Aldo, if you get into a balance versus balance fight, you favor yourself, you back yourself, you think like, yeah, I can take this guy on. But yeah, so that's why I don't get the prep. I think you go safer here in this case. Um, but yeah, I think Aldo probably comes out of this still like, I guess, disappointed that they've lost, but like not like too fussed about how they played. I think they played fine.
Yeah, yeah. It's just unfortunate, and that puts up the Clay Dolls 4-1 on Sunday. After that, before the next game, we've got a bit of
4-1.
Yeah, and like
Jesus,
it shouldn't be 4-1. Let's be honest. Aldo probably should have won that game. But even with that flex, like Fellerbrin definitely should have the win versus TJ. It's a very weird. It's a very weird 4-1. Like I really would have put this at a 3-2 in either direction, based on how these dudes do. So next we have Evigero versus Lambovino. This whole tour, Clay Dolls have been quite good, but their black white's been hot ass, and Evigero 6-0s. Like,
is that it? Is that
no?
it?
That's just it. Evigero 6-0s with Swords Dance Mawile. Lambovino did not bring a good team. They kind of fucked up. This was just real bad. I don't know what the thought process was. I don't like their team. I like Evie's team. I didn't help build it, but Evie did ask me like, "Hey MZ, how would you build with Abra in black white?" I'm like, "This is kind of the thing I'd go for," and that was like kind of where this team ended up. Not entirely the same Mons. But I think Lambovino's team was bad, and I don't know what they were doing. And this was just Evie like not being bad.
Holy shit!
This is the exact same thing.
It literally just 6-0.
This is the exact same thing as Skip Can versus Tricks. Like one player just did not show up, and this was a free win.
Yeah, I'd say one thing about Evie's team is that the fighting resist, the throw counterplay seems a bit off for me. But
it's literally just being offense. It's literally just all of my Mons. Like I'll hit throw with one of them and sack it to throw, and then throw won't be a threat.
Kill it with the other one. Yeah. No, you're right.
Like that's it.
Yeah, this is definitely a case of a team where you're just not going to switch out and you're just going to click attack, die, attack, die, and then win.
But somehow that wasn't even necessary because Lambo's team is like. The two really slow wall breakers and the weird balance core and then like the frail fast stuff, but like I don't rate this at all. I don't know what's which I get, getting into black white is not hard. I'm sorry, is not easy. Our team fucking lucked out with Lilbur going in this tour because otherwise we would like things could have gone real bad for us. Like I get it. But analysis wise, like no, this is the equivalent of Skip Can beating up Tricks. Each team has gotten just a free win.
This team of Lambovino, I feel like it has a lot of fundamental black white mistakes, like just the general lack of awareness for the meta between like tentacle. Like you can go with a tentacle or use a bronze, or like you can use either of those things, but to use both of them and then on top of that you have a throw which is kind of passive. Before it does anything,
offensive
and then you also have jump bluff. It needs more like substance there. Like you have the Marowak, cool, but like Marowak it's not enough. Pressured, man. Like this, it's fast. This meta is fast. Like in that mid tier.
And not just all that.
Presence.
He's clearly prepping for like a fat balance or a full stall, and it ran into full on offense, which is like the worst possible thing he could have faced. With like. The throw Marowak Bronzor tentacle stuff already like not being very good. Versus Eevee's team specifically.
I'd wager this team loses versus Store, honestly.
Maybe
not versus Fat Balance, but I think it might lose versus Store. To be honest,
you'd have to see. We don't know what the throw was, and throw plus Marowak plus jump bluff is not nothing for beating stall. But like that's not the point. I think it's clear Lambovino like did not run into anything he was prepping for either.
That's pretty more
Yeah.
accurate. Yeah, I agree with that.
So that puts it at 4-2, still in Claydoll's favor. But the last two games are LST versus Yandod and Star versus Katat. LST and Star can still like those are two very close games, so this is not out of the realm of possibility for Claydolls to or for Carcoals to clinch. And then between this and the next game, um, Yandod LST were supposed to play very early in the day. Had not some other games play. Yandod never shows up. LST like waits a really long time. Is eventually like I need a sub. TJ cannot provide one. LST has to go, and this is like a weird activity situation where like LST either gets activity, or if everyone agrees to it, they can extend the deadline by a few hours and have LST play at like midnight, and then TJ can sub in Brandon for like a 4 a.m. game to play like after the deadline. Uh, and
Right.
we'll never know if they would have taken the win or not, because like that decision of if they're going to take the activity win or not does not happen until Star Katut. And Star beats and Katut beats Star to end the tournament. And I wish I could say we're finally going to have a good game in playoffs. This was not that. What you have is two interesting, balanced teams. Nothing too crazy from either of them. Double Lilligant. Just some fun stuff, I guess. I think Star plays the early game slightly better, but nothing crazy, and definitely like gets caught with a big freeze dry on his Dreadnought that did not help. But really, there's not enough to say about this game because very early on, turn 11, I slightly favor Star here, give or take a Katut set that we'll see later, and Katut gets a turn 11 freeze that straight up locks Star out of the game. There's just nothing, you can't do anything about that. You're just fucked.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate one because I'm in my view at least this game's still a 50-50 because Katut did get that freeze dry off on the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought's basically dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I still favor. I think it's a 50-50 still. I don't think I not favor Katut, but I think the freeze kills it. Like I'd say it's pretty like 50-50, then the freeze makes it like a 90-10 to be honest.
I slightly favor Star because Misharna is looking pretty good in this matchup. I think Star like has a lot of ways to pressure Kling Klang with like going between Misharna and Throw. But there is still an X factor of Katut's set was actually weakness policy Unburdened Drift Blim, and if Star had not thought to scout for that and just knocked it off with Throw, that would have immediately won the game. So like Katut's not out of it. This is a close game. But like
did knock activates weakness policy, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't activate like key berry and stuff. The berry just comes off, but it does activate weakness policy. We actually see that happening later, but like in a situation where Star could have never tried to play around the Drift Blim, like you had no choice but to knock it off, and that's just the fucking game. Honestly, like again, I don't think Katut did anything wrong here. I'm not saying you're bad. It's just like I can't give big credit for a win either because this was just freeze into free win. Like, what are you gonna do?
I don't think I agree with that, to be honest. I think Katut. The more I look at the early game, like the more I think I'm favoring Katut. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Really?
So
because
I guess
you think he played the early game better, or you think he was going to win the game anyway?
No, I think he was going to win the game anyway.
Okay.
I don't think Misharna's threat level is that much, and in between the other stuff, like the other stuff's quite slow in comparison, and he also has counterplay for all of it. Like, I think, to be honest, I think Katut wins this regardless of hacks. Even if he doesn't get that freeze, I think he wins.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. We definitely didn't see Misharna's last move that I think matters a lot. It's Future Sight Moonlight Healing Wish, and I'm sort of assuming it has anything to pressure Rhyme, but maybe it didn't, and that would be a huge problem for like how is Star gonna break, because just Flame Orb Throw definitely might not cut it here. So that's totally fair.
Yeah. I think I favor Katut here. I still favor Katut without the freeze.
Yeah, fair enough.
That being said, I don't necessarily like Star's team. I think it's a bit slow to be bringing versus like we know what the Claydolls like to bring, and it's this Kling Klang Stunfish style archetype.
Yeah,
I think it's a bit a bit much to go down the whole like future sight Mashana plus throw plus this. Like it seems a bit, I don't know,
I
not
think
not
I think
to the style that
Philibern
needs
I
to
think
be.
Philibern and Kepi really showed that they knew what to bring versus the Clay Doll's typical stuff and had like
Yeah, maybe they
solid
psych
stuff
themselves
out of
out.
it. And Katut
Yeah,
didn't bring anything too radically different from what the Clay Dolls have kind of been falling back on. But Star's team was like not on the same level of like good specifically versus what Clay Dolls have been doing that the other two have been. So that's
yeah.
I agree
Honestly,
that's pretty
to be honest,
weird.
yeah, the Claydol's teams. Looking at the in hindsight now, the Claydol's teams look extremely similar to each other, like consistently similar. So I I don't know. Maybe they psyched themselves out. Maybe they didn't think that their ideas were too niche to be used in multiple games. But honestly, I look at like Rain Dance Golduck again, and I'm like, this
Use that
this
again,
is a
yeah.
bad matchup. Yeah, just use that again. Like, but yeah, so yeah, I think I favor Qatar in this one. Honestly, I like the idea of weakness policy Drifblim. That set sounds super cool. Uh, but yeah, I think just generally
Yeah. And
he's probably favored
that's
in this
totally
one.
fair. I think this is definitely one where I'm not in any way down on Katut. I think the stuff he brought was fine. He definitely had some good plays with like catching the Dreadnought or whatever. Um, but I do think Star definitely had odds there, and the freeze just ending the game was like, wow. We got 0 good games in finals. It was literally just like absolute nothing.
Yeah, messy
And
games.
Claydol's just won 5-2, and it's like, oh, well, that's kind of silly. I don't like last week versus the Dens. I said Claydol's didn't do anything. I don't think that makes them look bad. I think that just makes them look there. This week, I think their prep was just kind of worse, and they just sort of lucked into some wins. Again, not terrible, but I'm not like, damn, what a victory. Um, Earlier today, Procopius was asking what the drain punch the girder meme was, and I looked back to find the replay, and I went through
Oh
two
no.
PUPLs to find the replay, and I looked at the finals briefly of those two PUPLs. I think the reason that the Destructive Dedens last year, or Team Boku no Pika 2 years ago from Termi, got more praise was just because like they ended up having better games in finals. And overall, I come out of this not going Claydolls are a bad team, but Claydolls were fine, and they just also
Yeah.
happened to win. They're not terrible. Maybe they would have won anyway, but like they didn't do anything crazy that I'm super praising them for. They just kind of did like I feel like they did the amount of work necessary to win like week 2 of the regular season, and for that they got finals, if that makes sense. Which is not an indictment on them because you can only do so much with like what you're given from the other team. For the games that like they just sort of completely lucked out in, there was also GA and Trix just throwing them the win. It's just like that's why I'm not inclined to go in the chat and scream goat because this is like okay, whatever. I guess you won now.
Mm,
And I'm very sad that
yeah.
there were
I.
like 2 good games in all of the playoffs.
Yeah. I think honestly, looking back at this PPL, just overlooking it, I feel like the Kaleidos probably the best team. I I would be happy to admit that, given like how they played versus in all of the whole thing combined. I thought we were robbed of like a good series potentially
Mm.
versus the two best teams. I think it's undoubted. I don't think anybody can complain that these are the two best teams in the PPL at the moment.
I mean,
So
okay, but I'm not saying they're undeserving. I'm saying that they're like a solid case for the top teams, absolutely. But the thing that really gets me is like the same way the Clay Dolls, I think, kind of got out prepped and sort of just lucked into a win. That's also how the Carkles got here. They kind of got out prepped by the Meowsticks and just lucked into a win last week.
mm,
Um, like I wasn't too mad about Meowsticks going out in semis. I was like, we had a good run. We had a lot of bad luck, whatever. But coming out of this now, I'm like,
yeah,
I'd want to see a better set. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not. Both of these teams are obviously in contention for the best team. Um, but I'd like to see what like a not unlucky Meowsticks or a Dedens that actually tried. or even just the Dracloaks making it in, could have given these guys like a fair run for their money. I don't think we have anything like the Dedens last year or Boku, less so Boku no Pico before that, but I think what was Galbia's team? The Mischievouses 3 PUPLs ago.
Stout, no, shoegazing
The
Stoutlands, bro.
Shoegazing Stoutlands, right? I don't think we have anything like the Stoutlands or last year's Dedens, where like the winner is just clearly better and really just showed off their dominance. That doesn't mean they're bad necessarily. Again, I can only analyze based on the literal games we got, which like the Clay Dolls can't help that they sort of got handed a lot of wins. I don't know. They were fine. They're a fine team. Yeah, they're fine. That's
yeah.
This is not their fault. And me, you take those. You take those wins. But like, honestly, it feels a lot like PU Open. Like right now, the PU Open is mostly random non-mainers, and even from there, not the tour players that I think are that great, but just people who have not gotten very hard brackets and happen to not get unlucky. Whereas like most of the people I would have expected to do well either got very unlucky or got activityed in this Open. Like False got hacked, you got activityed, I got hacked, Termy got hacked, Selena got hacked, that kind of shit. That's sort of the same way I feel about this, where maybe they're good, maybe they had the potential to be really top if someone had managed to push them that hard.
Yeah.
But you can only look as good as your opponents, and especially when the last 2 weeks are like Karkul's sort of getting unlucky and half throwing games, and Deden's throwing 6 games.
Yeah, I think you put it up well. You can only beat what's in front of you.
Exactly.
To a certain extent, like you can't blame the Clay Dolls for the Dedens underperforming or they get lucky. You know, like you can't necessarily blame them for that. So I struggle to say they're okay. I think they're deserving winners. They're very good, a very solid, very good team. It's just I think it's an underwhelming way to end PUPL with a poor series.
Mm-hmm. And this is the thing I like really wanted to take the time to explain, because some people were not happy. I've gotten some shit for like, no, this is literally like what happened in analyzing. I'd love to be able to go, yeah, the winners like totally blew everyone out of the park. And yeah, the Clay Doll still had some very like Katut and TJ together, I think, had the 2 best. I'm not actually sure. I think Bugsinator might have had a better record than TJ. I'm not sure. Let me check. TJ had the same record as Bugsinator, and Katut had 1 more win and 1 less loss. So yeah, like that's still like top record and tied for second record right there. That's already like big. They had some impressive breakouts with Yandod. Drud was holding out down the fort. Lighthouses did really well. I'm not saying this is a bad team, but others' thoughts were weaker. And I feel like pointing that out has been sort of treated real bad. I've gotten a lot of shit for being like, they're not a bad team, so people did real good. It's just like, they're not the most amazingest thing ever, and I'm not wowed away. Like I said, I just really wanted to sort of like make people understand, because you can disagree with that, and I think that's totally fine, but I think the shit I've gotten is not people disagreeing, it's people being mad that that's my opinion of analyzing the actual games that happened. Because like I said, Clay Dolls have not won a week impressively since week 4. After week 4, they had a couple ties versus teams I think they're better than. They lost to Meowsticks, who I think most people would have said Clay Dolls are better than Meowsticks. They beat the Dedens. That's a nothing series, and they beat the Karkuls in another nothing series. I think we could have seen a lot more out of them. They could have looked amazing. Instead, they won, and they have a lot of potential, but we'll never know how far that potential would have gone.
Interesting.
You can tell, like, yeah, I know I've been repeating myself a lot. I've got a lot of shit, and I really want to explain myself to just be like, fucking, here's what I think. Stop giving me shit.
Fair enough. I think they deserve some credit. I think,
of course, they deserve some credit.
You're in no way like trying to say they don't deserve any credit for this win, because I think we both are in agreement that they deserve to win. But it's like we just wanted to see. I guess in PUBL, you kind of just want to see PU at its best, and we didn't really get to see that. So we're just sort of disappointed rather than super happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely like a very low quality playoffs, despite more playoffs games with 4 teams compared to like anything else we've had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's PUPL. A lot of fun things happened this tour, but playoffs, pretty sad. I wish there was something more we could do about that. Yeah, I wish PUPL and Open had gone a lot better. Open also, like I said, by the way, we're in the round with his replays, so you should finally spectate this stuff. Open's been very sad because it's been a lot. It's been, I don't mind having several non-mainers and new faces, but I've not been impressed by anything I've seen. Like this Open top 8 right now. There's Star versus Ziri. Star is great. He's like definitely the person I favor the most. Ziri has not cared at all about Gen 8, has not tried to play Gen 8, and is only here because they froze me in a guaranteed loss a few weeks ago. You have ZS, who I think has been pretty impressive and pretty good.
Yeah.
But not enough to maybe win the whole Open, I guess. And he lost to Dominatio, who's like a fine player using boring generic stolen stuff and being like kind of unimpressive and just not having any strong opponents. You've got Rosie Bear versus Confide, who are both like okay non-mainers, but again, nothing I'm remotely impressed with.
Rosie's a Brit, so Rosie has that going for them. They're a Brit. So
there's that, I guess.
The entire British Legion.
And then you have CBU versus Soulwind, who in the round before this both lucked people I consider better at this tier. CBU lucked Ham X5, and Soulwind lucked False.
Interesting.
A lot of kind of
that would have been a good game. Ham X5 versus False.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that, and then they both got hacked. I was like, well, fucking.
That's unlucky.
All
Soulwind
right,
is a good player though, so I'm excited to see what they bring in the
following. Soulwind's not bad. But the games with False were private, but False owned me because we're buds. I was not very impressed with Soulwind. I think he's obviously capable of a lot more. I hope he steals some better shit. I really do.
Yeah, I think.
And there's nothing we can do. I hope Snake goes a lot better because these tours have been starting out real cool and ending real sad. I hope other shit goes better. It's out of our hands. As PUTL, I'd like to make a better impression than PUPL and Open have put up, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'll be interesting to see if one of the non-mainers can win out versus more of the favorited players.
Well,
there's no favor Star heavily though in this bracket.
There's no mainer left except Ziri, who again like is a tour player and has not played Gen 8. So even then, I don't really think we have mainers left. I favor Star over everyone else, but we'll see. I really hope it's Star or Soulwind, because I think even if they haven't shown up much, they're still the people who are capable of the most here. Whereas, like, no offense to CBU or Rosie Bear or Confide, they've just been like fine, and I don't want someone who's just like they're okay to win Open. I'd like Open winner to be, the next PU icon, not like you were okay and you got kind of lucky and you had no good opponents until round 8.
Honestly, I think this is an opportunity for somebody like Rosie Bear or Confide to make a significant name for themselves in the PU.
Yeah, but Confide played PUPL and he was like fine. He was fine.
Yeah,
like he's okay. I'm just not like I'm just okay too. I don't want someone like me to win Open. I wanted someone like I would have been happy with like Ham, Star, False, or someone like you or LST. Even ZS would have been like, hey, fun new mainer putting it up. If you can hear that, by the way, my dog's snoring right behind me.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I know I've been very down or whatever, but I think that's just honest analysis.
Yeah.
So that's it for PPL.
That's done.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the week. Just PPL and Open. Nothing else has really been happening. So I guess we can just throw it to Gimmick Corner and call it a day.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best bet, isn't it?
I don't really have anything new, but I guess I'll highlight Growth Tangela is not something I came up with or whatever. It showed up a couple times in the last couple weeks of PPL as here's how Tangela beats Sub Throw. I don't remember who came up with it. I think it might have been Avarice, or I don't know. Or was Avarice the one that people were angry about because they quote unquote stole it? And it was like Atomic Llamas, and someone else came up with this. I don't know. I can't keep up with this. It's the dumbest drama. Whoever did it, I like that. That was pretty cool. It showed up a couple times. Kepi used it versus Procopius in finals in a pretty important scenario. What is that?
So I have a couple things. I think there were a couple of things that I was just toying with. I think I talked to you about one of them, which is like this idea of Trick Room, Psychic Terrain, Teleport, Mr. Mime into a Specs expanding force Behemoth, which is extremely good and extremely lit, apart from the fact that Morpeko has come into the tier and is quite a prominent dark type again. So this would have been great in a non-Thieval, non-Morpeko meta, but we have one of those, or had one of those consistently. So now that Morpeko's here to stay, I'm just going to dump this and be like, yeah, I'm not planning on using this. You guys can have fun with it in the two matchups it works in. But besides that, something that actually works in more than one matchup is SD Rocks Mawile. SD Rocks Mawile.
Yeah.
Because it's like Marowak, except it has a steel typing and it's got like fairy typing as well, so it's got some good offensive pressure going for it. And Sucker Punch is actually really useful as well.
Really, SD Rock Sucker Play Rough?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I would have just dropped Sucker, but yeah, no, that seems fun. I rate it. Yeah. I guess that's it, guys. I'm sorry that this was like such a downer, but I wanted to accurately reflect how the actual games have been going. I don't think that's the feeling in PU. I think people have been like, it's been a fairly like happy and positive time for the most part. There's been a couple things that'll have to get sorted out over the next couple weeks. But like, eat, drink, and be merry. Celebrate the Clay Dolls if you're a big fan of the Clay Dolls. All that stuff. I don't mean I never want to take away from people's enjoyment. But this is analysis. This is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll see you next week. Probably looking at some of these open games, because otherwise I don't think much is going to happen. I think in 2 weeks the tier shift. That's when there'll be a lot more to talk about. But I think next week will be something like shorter and more reserved, just about open. And I guess the snake draft is happening this Sunday. So
that's fun.
Yeah, maybe look forward to something a little shorter. But thanks for tuning in if you made it through all my like stop bullying me talk. And we'll see you next week.